Hi there, my name's Suzanne and I'm one of the reference department staff here at the James L. McIntyre Library. And this year we are celebrating our 125th anniversary of serving the citizens of Sault Ste. Marie and area. So today it's my pleasure to talk to you about some of my favorite books. The first book I'd like to tell you about is called The Loon Feather. And it was written by Iola Fuller, an American woman, in 1940. I first came across this book, like so many people, on Mackinac Island. It's actually set on Mackinac Island and in the Great Lakes area. And predominantly, the location that's featured the most is Mackinac Island. The story tells the life story, basically, of Oneida, who is the daughter of Tecumseh. And she ends up being thrown between the two worlds of the colonial world and the Indigenous world. And there is becoming more and more pressure on the Indigenous people of Turtle Island to succumb to the colonizers and give up their land. And we see this played out in the book, and it really juxtaposes the two worlds. Iola Fuller does a really good job of showing that strain between Oneida wanting to be true to her Indigenous roots and also get along with her stepfather, and she's sent off to the convents in Quebec to learn how to be a lady from the Ursuline sisters. But then when she comes back, she readily goes back to her Indigenous culture and the beauty of that lifestyle. One of the unique characters in the book is Martha. She is a medicine woman who is very connected to Oneida and spends a lot of time with Oneida as a child, gathering medicines and traveling around the island. And this is one of the areas where the beauty of Iola Fuller's writing really shows, is that she just has a nice lyrical prose. Many people have described it as a beautiful book. So Martha, also as a character, is a vehicle for introducing an earth-based approach, an earth-based perspective, more of an Indigenous perspective and worldview than we commonly see in a lot of mainstream North American literature. So I really like that part of it. It's a fascinating read. It does have a lot of history in it, and that's one of the things I really respected Iola Fuller for. She is not an Indigenous writer, but she spent a great deal of time researching her book. She did extensive research, exhaustive. One of her students, she went on to be a teacher, and one of her students said that when he went over to her house, she showed him all the diaries she had kept of meetings and interviews and conversations she had with different chiefs and leaders throughout Michigan. So she went to her source, and I think she did a really good job considering it's 1940 and the resources she would have had at hand. I think she wrote a really respectful and as accurate as she could make it. She gives us a really good everyday life of what it must have been like in the 1800s as these two cultures come together and play out the story of North America. So the second book I'd like to tell you about today is called Firekeepers Daughter. It is written also by an American woman, Angeline Booley. Angeline Booley is a member of the Sioux tribe from Sioux, Michigan. And the book is also set in Sioux, Michigan. And a large portion of the book also occurs on Sugar Island in the St. Mary's River. What I really liked about Firekeepers Daughter is that it is home to me. I don't live in Sioux, Michigan, of course, but the St. Mary's River, Sugar Island, I spent most of my own life looking at Sugar Island. That was the view I had, and I just loved the countryside and the water. the pines, the big white pines. There's so much history here in our area. The land in this book is a character unto itself, just as it is in the first book I spoke of, The Loon Feather. And I think, again, that really represents a much clearer idea of an Indigenous worldview where earth, nature is your equal. It's not a colonizing or colonial perspective where earth and nature are something to be conquered. So I think this book does a really good job of showing that in the character Donis. Donis is the main character, and much like Iola Fuller's character Onita, Donis is also caught between two worlds, because Donis has the experience of being a child of mixed race. So her mother is from a prominent white family in Sioux, Michigan, and her father is a very prominent he's deceased in the book, but he was a prominent hockey player from the Chippewa tribe. And so Donis finds herself with one foot in each world. And how she navigates that is, I found, just fascinating and really shows the strength of character and the resiliency that is very common in Indigenous culture. And I also think that in navigating those two cultures, there's knowledge that comes about. Like, I learned a lot of things in this book. Once again, we have a character who is Donis's aunt, I believe it is, and I could be wrong, but she is also someone who harvests natural medicines. And it's just really wonderful to be able to read something locally set that talks about the Indigenous culture of this area. The book has several plots going on in it, and I don't want to spoil it for you, because it is literally the kind of book that you cannot put down once you start. Or if you're like me and I read the book by listening to it and I couldn't stop. The woman that is the story's narrator for Audible was amazing. I felt like I had made a new friend, and I just wanted to know what was going to happen to her next. So it's got suspense, it's got some really hard topics, trigger warning for some people. There is sexual assault in the book. There is a huge drug issue in the book. And I think there's something in this book for anyone that's over that age of, say, 12. It's considered a YA book, young adult book, but it transcends its genre. It has so many levels for you to approach this book and to learn something about yourself and the local Indigenous culture. It's been my pleasure today to share two of my most favorite books with you. And if you've enjoyed these and they intrigue you and you'd like to learn more, I'll introduce you to, just very briefly, to a third favorite, and it's called A Mind Spread Out on the Ground. It's by Alicia Elliott, a woman from Six Nations area in Ontario, which is down around Brantford and area. It's an excellent book. It will make you think. There are hard stories and hard conversations, but she has a beautiful hand at writing, and I think it's something that you would really value the experience of reading. Thanks for joining me today, and come and see us at the James L. McIntyre soon.